Intergenerational solidarity recognizes and values the difference between generations while also attempting to find ways for them to coexist peacefully, work together, share various forms of assistance, support one another, and demonstrate solidarity. Well, my name is Didayo Adole, and for this year's International Youth Day program, theme, Intergenerational Solidarity, creating a world for all ages. Alongside my colleague Lola Adebanjo, we'll be getting people's opinion on this in a city where cultures and people come together. Guess where that is, guys? Lagos! Let's go.
My name is Ayodeji Abaton. I'm an entrepreneur and just recently I'm a politician too.
Wow, oh, you look like one.
Thank you.
And your age?
Oh, I'm 28 years.
So my name is Shimola Gunju, 26. I'm an international development practitioner, and what I do is to work with organizations, I work with governments, I work with individuals. Currently working with a non-profit to sort of like help young people create change-making projects.
My name is Okpayemi Olugwemiro.
The age?
28.
And what you do?
I'm a brand communications consultant.
My name is Daniel Okezwe. I work as a strategic sales manager in a media firm. I'm 30 plus.
Calling me.
What's your age?
I'm 23.
What do you do?
I'm a fashion designer.
My name is Yemi Oyewole. I'm into teaching. I'm 43.
My name is Mrs. Clara Ilesomi. Next month I will be 50 years old. I'm a caterer.
People within my age bracket are those trying to define a lot of things. One, define things for themselves and also define things for the world. So you find people in my age bracket pioneering, creating things, building companies, building especially. Because that's what your 20s are supposed to be for. But when you are approaching older 20s, you begin to focus more on building than just exploring.
I think that people within my age bracket, they're very brilliant. They're also very, very, very vibrant. We have energy. If we can channel it into doing something that is very positive.
Grit, innovation, resilience, right? I do not think that the world has experienced some of the things that we are facing. If for young people who are succeeding despite all or in spite all, this is an amazing time. So that's why I'm calling my grit and resilience. Either the old people want to think we are resilient or not, we are.
But versatile, creative, fresh, yes. Very fresh and resilient, yes.
The people within my age brackets, at this point in time, career-wise, most of them are getting to the peak. If not to the peak, they are getting almost to the peak of their career.
Yes, I remember when I was looking for a job when I was much younger. I was like 21. And before then, of course, if you are somebody who has discovered some sense of mission so early, you tend to have started researching, reading, learning, studying, even things beyond what your age should be studying. But when you go out there and say, you know what, I have some good sense on this thing and I want a job in this regard, since you are already like opening it up and they say, okay, wow, okay, you seem knowledgeable about it. They ask you questions and they ask you, how old are you? And you say 22, or say you even say 21. They're like, in their mind, they may not express it to you anymore, but in their mind, they're like, And some even go as far as expressing, this one actually expressed it, like, you're too young for the responsibility. And I'm like, wow, really? And I didn't hear back again.
No.
Absolutely. I remember that by the time I had finished school, I finished school a little later, right? And job in Nigeria will tell you that if you are not 25 or below, you will not be able to get a job, right? So you can't apply for an average management training program in an organization, which is quite understandable from their own point of view. But sometimes I just feel like, segmenting people like that will, leave out possible talent on the table.
Definitely, yes, I have. Okay, so one of the reasons why I gravitated towards my line of work was because I honestly just found problems in my communities I wanted to solve. But these problems will not solve themselves just because I have a passion for them, right? They're going to solve because I have the resources and the funding and all of those things. And getting funding might require me having to submit certain documentation and all of those things. And I realized that because I was so young, it was difficult for organizations and firms who were giving out loans and grants to trust or entrust a young person with so much money. So it's not enough to just tell them I have a desire to change the world. They actually have to trust you enough to want to put the funding in your hands. And that's one of the reasons why I gravitated was the organization I worked with, because it's like the first organization literally that was putting money directly in the hands of young people in order to create change, and that for me was really good.
That question seems like I should answer in some form of generational clashing, but I don't think that's necessary. Why? Business is owned by old people. The old people were once young people, right? So they just had some sort of the experiences and programming they've had that has maybe modeled the way they are building what they are currently doing as they are old or when they are in their old age. But people who are young too, of course, we just have a lot of, we can explore faster, we're nimble, we move when we see opportunity. So, but I think the difference is just the difference of years. Businesses run by young people, we tend to want to move, we're agile. But businesses run by old people, they've seen everything, right? So they tend to be more calm, reserved, try to look at the options well, and they are slower to change. Well, that's a thing. You will say they are slower to change, but I've worked with a number of older people who are not slow to change, who move, and you're like, this man has a heart of what, 20-something years, whereas it's like 50-something. So I think there's no difference. It's just about who you approach or when you meet those kinds of people. So you realize that, okay, people can be different, whether old or young, they can be the same, they can be different.
Oh well, I think I'm beginning to learn now that it's actually not by age. If you want to run a very good business, it's something that I actually had to learn myself, that we should not just advocate for certain things just because we are young. We should advocate for certain things because we have the capacity to be able to deliver on them. So when I look at some businesses run by young people, yes, we have the energy, we have the vibrancy, we are brilliant, but we're hardly building systems or hardly building structures. And so you see businesses that are built by people who are now older. Funny enough, those people might have actually started building those businesses from when they were young too. But there was something about their generation that they understood about leaving legacies and building systems that outlast them. We just want to gain all the influence. So we're doing a lot of, yes, we are making money as long as it's convenient, as long as we're making money and we have followers on TikTok and Instagram, but we're not really building deep systems and legacies that might outlast us. Not all of us, so I don't want to generalize, but in the events where we have to take a step back to think about it, I'll say we look at the kind of businesses we are building, how sustainable is it and how lasting is it?
That's a very difficult question for me. I mean, the only thing I can say that I have noticed in terms of the difference is freedom, how work environment freedom, but in terms of understanding, in terms of business success, I don't think those fundamentals are determined by the age of the person, right? They are not. But how those fundamentals are applied may now differ, because how a young person sees diligence may be different from how an older person sees diligence, right? But you need diligence, right? You need innovation, right? You need like several other things that make a business run. So I think it's just the how, in terms of paying a little bit more attention to the intangibles that help the tangibles.
Well, I think the major difference is the experiences these older people have gathered over the years, right? The experiences from customers, clients, the way they make their products and all those things. I think they've been able to put all those experiences and incorporate it into making better products and better experiences with people, better than younger people, right? Because we're just starting up, right? We're just learning. So I guess that's just the difference. And theirs is more refined because they have more experience, I think.
A lot of the businesses we know today were started by young people, even though they have lived 100 years plus, right? So there is something about doing or starting things in your youth, right? So the good thing is that you start, but the beautiful thing is that you grow. It's not about the starting, it's about the sustainability and the growth, right? And that's process determines whether you live afterward, determines the entire life cycle of your business, right? So I don't really think it's a function of age, because there are some people who are young, there are young fools and there are old fools, and there are wise young people and there are older wise people, right? So it's a function of the knowledge that you have and the willingness to go through the changing times as it comes, really.
There are differences. It's generational differences. Number one, the older people, were engaged in business with energy, understanding, wisdom that are relevant to their time. But a lot of changes has come in that is even affecting their business now, which the younger generation are taking advantage of, especially in the area of technology and global village.
If I were to advise younger people, do things so you become versatile as you grow older.
It's just important that there is a bridge, right? We need the wisdom of the old and the strength of the youth to be able to achieve the level of sustainable development that the world needs at scale. When we begin to emphasize the importance of working together, the dynamics of a lot of things will change over a period of time. So what can we do? Intentionally create platforms, places, systems that ensure that both sides are working together, right? And the older people need to also understand that, they're not going to be around forever, right? The younger people need to also know that, one of the things that is going to keep you is that you avoid the pitfalls that killed the people before you, right? So understanding how to, in a very wise way, combine the strengths and weaknesses of both ages is like an amazing part.
I think first of all, the older generation needs to be able to kind of value and respect young people, not just because of their age, but actually even give them a chance to prove that they have something to offer in the first place. A lot of young people get disqualified from certain opportunities just because they are young, and so you've not even gotten the opportunity to meet with them, to engage them, to hear what they have to table. They just tell you I'm 13, or they tell you I'm 24, and you're like, you're 24. What do you possibly have to offer? I think that might be changing now, because I follow a lot of young people who are very, very brilliant, like I said earlier. And so I think that there is that, people are beginning to see now that there is so much more to us beyond our age and all of that. So just giving young people the opportunity to at least table themselves. If they now do, and then we present rubbish, we can now say, I'm not, but don't generalize it. Still give more young people the opportunity. That's actually how we learn, because we're not despising the older generation, and we believe that they have so much to teach us, and we're willing to learn. So if they give us the opportunity to come close to them, and they begin to hand over, their knowledge, their resources and investments in us, I think we're going to make very good use of it, actually.
The interesting thing is that there's always this divide between the young and the old, right? Once you are older, you don't think that there is a need for the young people, but the truth is that just as the times are changing, there is need for every older person to be able to relate with younger people, so at least you can have a sense of what is happening on their level, right? Because sometimes you can be so tall that you lose sight of what is happening below your height level, right? And it is important for older people to be conscious and deliberate about working with the younger people, because if you're in marketing like I am, for instance, you will understand that no matter how old you are, you will create some product that is not for your generation, and if you don't understand the people you are trying to sell to, you will lose them. That product will fail. And for the young people as well, there is a way our generation particularly makes it look like older people have lived above their wisdom, but the truth is that you need the wisdom of the old to be able to work with the strength you currently have, because there are several things you don't know. And like they say about mentorship, that if you stand on the shoulder of a mentor, you are able to mitigate a lot of the difficulties that they've gone through, a lot of the challenges that they went through. You don't have to go through, because there is already a level playing field that they have provided for you.
The youth accepting to be mentored, tutored, and be taught of the ideas that these people ahead of them or older generation were able to use to succeed in their time. And then, apart from being tutored and accepting their leadership, they should also be able to, adapt this thing and blend it with the new trend that is, ongoing now, especially with the use of technology and social media.
Politics is one of the things that is, extremely essential to the verticals of our nation, right? Of every nation, when you think about the governance, you think about the civic, right? If you are not in government actively, you will have civic responsibilities, as a citizen of a nation. So that means that there is always a collaboration that is required between them, and that is why even in private sector, you will always consider the government, because they have regulations that can kill or make your business, right? So also with regards to participation, of course, they say, like, for instance, that power is not given, power is taken, and before you can take power, you have to at least come close to the corridors of power. You can't just show up from nowhere and say you want to grab power from the center where it exists. So you have to have proximity. So this is speaking to the younger people, right? They need to understand that the older people, even in their 90s, will not just call you and say, okay, take this. You will have to have worked with them. Sometimes some of these things are bestowed based on trust, right? Some of them are bestowed based on proximity. Yes, I know this guy, or somebody I know someone that they think can deliver on a particular job. Just like at work, you don't get promotions because you are a fine boy, right? Except in Nigeria, sometimes, I don't know. But for you to get promoted, that means you have shown a level of track record that you can actually hold forth in the work that has been given to you. Same thing with politics, right? The way they have grown, the older people have grown in politics. For you to come close to where they are, you have to be at least have that close proximity with them and learn from the experience. You can't think that the experiences do not matter, because they have it, right? And because they won't give it to you, they won't just call you or just Google your name on social media and say, there's one guy that has 200 million followers, let's call him and make him the next president of Nigeria, without any form of experience, right? So you have to learn from these people, practical experiences that they've learned over time, and be able to work with what they have, right? Because they might not look for you. You have to be the one to look for them.
First of all, the image of politics that we have is not something that is very encouraging. We've heard stories, we've seen images of people in politics that make it look like it's such a dirty, thing that you don't want to be a part of. Because of the field I play in international development, right? It's sort of like intertwined with governance, public management, public service in a way. But even me, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, I don't think I want to play politics on a national level. Maybe I should do it from an international or regional level. I'm still going to get the kind of respect that they get, and maybe possibly still make an influence in my local community if I do that. But the truth is, we can't keep running away from those things forever. One thing that could change my mind, and I think the older generation can do, is to help us even present an image of this thing as though it's something that is obtainable, attainable, and it's something that is not so dirty as it is presented, so that we're interested to even get in. And besides what the older generation do to encourage us, I think young people should also begin to sit up and say, I need to get into this thing now, because like you can't see, we're not going to be young forever, and whatever actions that we take now will determine what this country is eventually going to be in the coming days. So I'll just say, regardless of whether they encourage us or not, let's get involved, let's participate in it. But for the older generation, let them even at least try to present us an image that is desirable, and then when we do come in, they should give us a chance to learn from them, and they should also be willing to pass it down to us. Like, it's not something that they're going to have to hold on to forever.
They need to give them insights into how to play politics with the current realities, and besides that, teach them how to do it in such a way that they will be able to involve other youths. Therefore, they need to encourage them, bring them in, mentor them, and give them responsibilities.
We try to educate them, because nowadays politics is for everybody now. Because in those days, if pastors, let me say clergies, either in Muslim or in Christian, they are not participating in politics. But nowadays, it's not so. Anybody can participate in politics. I even encourage our youth now, either you are a Muslim or a Christian, to participate in politics.
It's always very funny when you're applying for a job in Nigeria, because they'll tell you that we require someone of a certain age and with so and so certain years of experience, which is like maybe the years of experience even more than your age in some cases, right? But I think young people are actually at an advantage with jobs, and the sooner you start to apply, the better, because you're not quite sure if you're going to get in at first trial. And so I feel like a lot of young people, what I've seen is that a lot of young people kind of feel like I have all the time on my hands, so maybe I shouldn't do this thing now. But I've also tried to apply for things, scholarships, fellowships, that I don't get picked at first, and then I do it again the next year, I don't get picked, and then I do it again next year, and you realize that you're already suddenly exceeding the age limit at some point. But for young people, we have so many opportunities that are out there that we can apply for. I'm serious. Older people actually don't, because once you get to a certain age, maybe 35 and above, they begin to see you as you're not a youth anymore, and most of these opportunities are gravitated. The problem is where to find them, right? Where to find that these opportunities actually exist, but they are, and I think they're favorable for young people.
I think that has changed. That used to be something, especially in a world that is more technology driven now. Any business that is focusing on age as a prerequisite for getting results is far behind. If you are more result oriented, the question you'll be asking is, can this person do the job and not necessarily age? But there are some jobs that may be age specific as a result of the niche, right? As a result of what it is. But for technology, if you can do the job, get it done.
In these days, it should be out of requirements. What should be considered, to get the job done should be skill, aptitude, and attitude.
One thing I would say is older people have created platforms, whether they acknowledge it or not, whether it's through the platform of forming a political party that some of us are going into to aspire for positions, to aspire to create some level of social change or renewal. It's older people that have set up those platforms. So what I think that older people should begin to do now is to become intentional about the kinds of young people they bring onto that platform, right? The kind of young people they encourage to is either get better or something else. So if I were an older politician, for example, I would want to look for a younger politician who is mission driven, who is driven on some sort of agenda. I want to see how I can use my wisdom of years to help them see things in a more wise manner. Younger people can tend to be very jumpy, but older people can help us see things in more diverse manners than we can see, because they have seen it, and help us see that with our youth we can even approach it than they can approach it. They can see it, but they may not be able to approach it, but they can tell us, okay, you know what, this is it, this is what it is. Now, how do you want to approach it? Okay, you know what, I give you freedom, approach it. Giving us that platform, giving us the leverage, and giving us some sort of the resources that they have garnered over the years. Resources, wisdom, material, immaterial, intangible, all that stuff. I think this is something that they should begin to do now, because of course they will be thinking of legacy. So legacy will not work in a vacuum. Legacy works when somebody else can carry up that mantle and lead. Elisha, Elijah, Elijah, Elisha. Simple.
Humility, I guess, because I feel we young people have this tendency to always behave like we know everything, because this tech age and everything, everybody seems to know everything.
They should share their scars a little bit more and create an enabling environment for young people to be able to participate, right? That does not mean that young people will just wait and sit and allow it, oh, come, give me, right? But it also means that as much as we are trying as much as possible to get to sit at the table, don't make it more difficult for us to get to sit at the table. Learn from the mistake, learn from their victories, see their stories and know how to rewrite your own story.
No matter how wise you are, older people have many experience. They have experienced many things than younger people. Younger people cannot know more than older people, because Yoruba they say tọmọdé bá ní aṣọ bí àgbà kò lè lákìsà tó àgbà.
There is so many things to be learned. There is something we call the wisdom of the old. It's not a cliche. It is the fact that someone has walked a part of life, and you are definitely going to walk that part, regardless of what your own present day realities are, right? Someone has walked that part of life, and it will be better for you if someone is grabbing your hand and walking you along that part of life. You definitely have to learn from people to be able to grow. And again, it comes to the place of mentorship, stewardship. That is why the generation next is supposed to be impacted by the generation previous. It's just a normal process to life.
I'm such an advocate for young people, but I also think I'm also a very big believer in it's not just about the age. It's about recognizing what you want, what you think you can become, or what you believe that maybe this is why I've been sent here. If you see that in someone that is older, like the wise thing to do is to actually just learn from them. I would say that we should not despise the older generation because they have a lot of wisdom. They know how to build systems that outlast them. They know how to stay on something till that thing actually grows, really deep roots. That's something that we are not willing to do. Once tiny discomforts, we have moved on to the next thing, right? So I think that we should look out for the older generation, see if there is something that they have that we can embody, see if they embody something that we would like to become, and see how we can just learn from them as well. Older generation should also be willing to kind of like open their space, their knowledge, their resources in us. I'm even talking about people that maybe have amassed a lot of wealth already. Like, people have so much money, just invest it in someone that is going to make you proud in coming years, right? So they should be willing to open up their space, their knowledge, their resources to the younger generation, willing to collaborate with us, willing to teach us, and most importantly, to pass down whatever it is that they might have built that they think we can continue when they leave. They should be willing to pass that down to us as well.
The older ones are really appreciated because the success so far we have recorded, and even the failure and disappointments, are majorly from the older ones. They have seen the depths, the length, the breadth, and the height in terms of experience, managing success, having failures, and if they put this to perspective to teach the youth, then it will help them to avoid some pitfall. What they too can learn from the youth is all these youth are very good in the new ideas, innovations, creativity that's come along with social media and the recent technology that is helping to make productions very, very faster.
With our conversation so far, we now understand that solidarity between generations is essential.
The world needs to leverage the full potentials of all generations. Solidarity across generations is key to sustainable development. My name is Didaya Adele, and
my name is Laura Adebanjo. Till we meet next time, happy International Youth Day.